Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are diving into one of the most asked questions. What DevOps tools do you really need to know to succeed, right? So whether you are just starting your DevOps journey or looking to sharpen your skills, I am going to walk you through the essential tools that every DevOps engineer should have in their toolkit. So covering everything from CI infrastructure, CI/CD infrastructure as a code, containerization to monitoring and collaboration, right? So grab your notebook, hit that like button, and let's break it down tool by tool because mastering the right tools is what will set you apart in this fast moving world of DevOps, right? And also, if you find this video useful, whether for you, your friends, your colleagues, or anyone looking to excel in DevOps skills, make sure to like and share it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss out on more videos like this that will help you grow and succeed in your DevOps journey. All right, I have put together a solid list of DevOps tools that you must know, right? So let's go through them one by one so you understand what they are, why they matter, and how they fit into the DevOps workflow. Let's get started. So the first one is cloud providers. So I have listed down three major cloud providers in the market. First one is Azure from Microsoft, and the second one AWS from Amazon, and the third one is Google Cloud Platform from Google. So Azure and AWS are widely used in the market, and most of the organizations extensively use these cloud providers to provision their resources such as networking, storage, and computing resources, right? So you don't necessarily need to know all three of them. You just have to be the master of at least one of the cloud providers, right? Let's say for if you are comfortable with Azure, you need to know most of the resources from Azure, how to provision them, how to work with them, and how to manage them, right? And then if you are comfortable with AWS, then you need to know most of the resources from the AWS. Same case with GCP. So whether your organization chooses Azure, AWS, or GCP, it's important to get hands-on with at least one of these. Each of them has a massive ecosystem, and you will be working with them for infrastructure, networking, storage, and computing resources. Now let's start with version control systems. Think of this as the backbone of the collaboration in DevOps. Without it, teams would struggle to manage code changes, track progress, or even work together smoothly, right? So the first tool you must know is Git. It's by far the most dominant version control system today. It helps developers track every change in their code, revert to earlier versions if something breaks, and experiment safely without touching the main code base. Next is GitHub. This isn't just Git hosting, it's packed with collaboration tools like pull request, issue tracking, and integration with CI/CD pipelines, making teamwork easier and more transparent. And the next one is Azure Repos. If you are working in the Azure ecosystem, let's say if you are comfortable with Azure, you will definitely encounter Azure Repos. It offers both Git and Team Foundation version control, which is not listed here, but it's tightly integrated with Azure DevOps, providing a smooth experience for managing your code alongside your entire DevOps pipeline. Now let's talk about infrastructure as a code or ISC. In DevOps, automating infrastructure is a game changer, and ISC tools are what make that possible. They allow you to define, manage, and provision your entire infrastructure using code, making your deployments faster, more reliable, and highly scalable, right? So first, let's cover cloud agnostic or multi-cloud ISC tools. The top name here is Terraform, developed by HashiCorp. It's probably the most popular ISC tool today because it works across multiple cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and more. With Terraform, you write infrastructure definitions once and you can apply them almost anywhere. Let's move on to configuration management and provisioning tools. This sometimes overlap with infrastructure as code, but their main focus is slightly different. They're all about automating system configurations across your environments to ensure consistency and reduce manual errors. So one of the most widely used tools here is Ansible, developed by Red Hat. It's declarative, agentless, and works over SSH, which makes it simple and powerful. You can use Ansible to configure servers, deploy applications, and automate all kinds of IT tasks. You, to be honest, you don't need to be to be an expert in Ansible, but you need to know how to configure them, how to write Ansible scripts. For Windows-based environments, you will want to know PowerShell DSC, desired state configuration. It's a native Microsoft solution designed to ensure your Windows systems stay in the desired configuration state. So, for PowerShell, if you are working on Windows servers, if you know PowerShell, it is well and good. You also same case with Ansible. You don't need to be an expert in PowerShell, but if you are working in Windows servers, you will get an question on PowerShell if you know PowerShell scripting or not. Now let's talk about scripting languages, a major advantage for anyone working in DevOps. Scripting helps you automate repetitive tasks, integrate with other tools, and even write custom automation scripts when off the shelf tools aren't enough. So, there are two main categories you should focus on. First, shell scripting languages. PowerShell. PowerShell is an essential for Windows environments, giving you deep control over systems and application tasks. Then there is Bash, the go-to for Linux systems. It is mostly used in Linux servers, used heavily in server management, CI/CD pipelines, and automation scripts. Then second one is general purpose scripting languages. For this one, I would recommend only one scripting language, which is Python. Right. So while it's optional, it's incredibly powerful and versatile. Python is great for writing more complex automation, integrating APIs, and handling tasks that go beyond basic shell scripts. While Python is optional, but if you are working on Windows servers, you need to know PowerShell. Not expert kind of knowledge, but at least writing scripts and understanding the modules and the commands. And if you are mostly working on Linux, then you need to know Bash scripting. Next, let's cover operating systems, another core skill area for DevOps professionals. You need to be comfortable working in both Windows and Linux environments. Not necessarily that you need to be uh, expert on Windows or Linux. If you know any of the operating system servers, it is well and good. Most servers running in the cloud today are based on Linux. So if you know Linux, that is a very good advantage. So knowing your way around Linux is essential, especially for managing cloud workloads, containers, and microservices. But don't overlook Windows. In many enterprise environments, you will encounter Windows servers, applications, and services that need just as much attention and automation. Now we come to the heart of DevOps, continuous integration and continuous deployment or CI/CD tools. These tools help automate your software delivery pipeline so you can build, test, and deploy faster, more reliably, and with less manual effort. Let's break them down. First, cloud native and SaaS CI/CD platforms such as GitHub Actions, GitLab CI/CD. GitHub Actions is widely used. GitLab CI/CD is not that much used by organizations. But if you know GitHub Actions, then well and good because it is tightly integrated into GitHub. It's become hugely popular for automating workflows directly from your repositories. Right. Next, enterprise or on-premises CI/CD tools. If your organization needs something more customizable, then you can prefer the Jenkins. Jenkins is one of the most popular, highly extensible open source CI/CD tools with a massive plugin ecosystem, right? So if you know Jenkins, then well and good. If you don't know, then there's not necessity of you should be knowing the Jenkins because most of the organizations are moving to cloud, so they are demanding more of the cloud tools because Jenkins is more of a on-premises CI/CD tool and people are moving to GitHub Actions or let's say Azure DevOps or AWS DevOps, GCP DevOps, right? And then you have cloud provider native CI/CD services such as Azure DevOps, AWS DevOps, Google Cloud Build. So Azure DevOps is deeply integrated with Azure services, making it ideal for Microsoft Cloud environments. So if you are working with Azure, then you should know Azure DevOps definitely, because Azure DevOps is tightly integrated with Azure services. So you don't need to do the extra configuration on the CI/CD platform. Then there is Azure DevOps. If you are working on AWS platform, then AWS DevOps is good for you. If you are working on Google Cloud platform, then Google Cloud Build is the one CI/CD tool which you can use. Finally, if you are working with containers and Kubernetes, check out container native CI/CD tools, Argo CD and Spinnaker. Argo CD, a GitOps tool specifically for continuous delivery to Kubernetes clusters. Then Spinnaker supports multi-cloud continuous delivery and works great with Kubernetes. So if you know Kubernetes and Docker, then you can go with it. It's not necessary that you need to know Argo CD and Spinnaker, because most of the organizations, they are yet to use these services. Most of them use it on purpose basis, but most of them are not using it, right? So this is kind of optional. Finally, let's touch on containerization. While it's sometimes considered optional for beginners, it can truly be a game changer in DevOps. So if you're a beginner, you don't necessarily need to be an expert in Docker and Kubernetes. But if you are an expert in DevOps, in interview questions, interviewers might ask questions on Docker and Kubernetes. The most widely used tool here is Docker. It's the leading in container engines, making it simpler to build, share, and run containers. For more secure or enterprise focused environments, there's Podman. It's daemonless, Docker compatible, and often preferred when security or rootless operation is a priority. Right? So Podman is optional. You don't necessarily need to do. You need to go for Podman. Now, if you are working with containers, you will definitely want to explore container orchestration tools. These tools help you manage, scale, and orchestrate containers in production, because once you move beyond a few containers, managing them manually just isn't practical. The dominant platform here is Kubernetes. It's the leading container orchestration system used by companies worldwide to automate deployment, scaling, and management of containerized applications. Right? To make Kubernetes even more powerful, you can use Helm. Helm, a tool that helps you package, deploy, and manage Kubernetes applications in a simple and repeatable way. For simpler setups, there's also Docker Swarm, Docker's native orchestration tool. It's easier to get started with, but less powerful and flexible compared to Kubernetes. It's optional. You don't necessarily need to know Docker Swarm. If you know Kubernetes, then just ignore Docker Swarm. In enterprise environments, you'll often work with managed Kubernetes services such as Azure Kubernetes Service (AKS) managed by Microsoft, and then Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service (EKS) managed by AWS, then Google Kubernetes Engine (GKE) managed by Google. So you don't necessarily need to know all of these services, but if you are working on Azure, then AKS is the preferred one. If you are working on Amazon, then EKS is the preferred one. Same with Google. If you are working on a particular cloud provider, then you need to know the services of that particular cloud provider only. Now let's see the container registries. Basically to store, distribute containers. So there are like Docker Hub, Amazon Elastic Container Registry, Azure Container Registry, Google Container Registry, right? So if you are working on containers, then you will come across these container registries. You don't necessarily need to know all of the container registries, but if you are working on Docker, then you might use Docker. If you are working on EKS, then you might want to use the Elastic Container Registry. If you are working on AKS, then Azure Container Registry, like that wise. Finally, let's touch on build tools. While sometimes considered optional, they play an important role when you are packaging your code into deployable artifacts. Depending on the languages you are working with, you will encounter different tools. Like for Java projects, the most common build and dependency management tools are Maven and Gradle. And in case of .NET and C Sharp world, you will likely use NuGet, which is primarily a package manager but also helps handle dependencies in your projects. And for JavaScript and Node.js, you will work with npm, the go-to package manager for installing libraries, managing dependencies, and running builds. Lastly, let's talk about code quality and security, a critical part of DevOps that often gets overlooked, right? So before any code gets deployed, you want to make sure it's clean, secure, and free of obvious bugs or vulnerabilities. That's where static analysis and security scanning tools come in. So some key tools to know are like SonarQube, the industry leader for static code analysis, helping you catch bugs, vulnerabilities, and code smells early. Then Sonar Cloud, the cloud hosted version of Sonar Cube, great for cloud based pipelines. Then TF-Lint, an open source linter designed specifically for Terraform, helping you catch misconfigurations or policy violations in your infrastructure code. So I have also made a video on TF-Lint. So I'll just uh, give the link on the description so you can check out. Then there is Checkovi, another important tool that scans your cloud infrastructure configurations for misconfigurations before they are deployed. Same for Checkovi. Also, I have made a video. I'll paste the link in the description. You can check out. And there is also one more tool called TerraTest, basically an automated testing for your infrastructure code. TerraTest is a powerful Go library that provides helper functions and patterns to test your infrastructure with first-class support for Terraform, Packer, Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, GCP, and more. Now let's check the dependency management tools. So this is optional, but if you know, then it's well and good. So managing your dependencies in is another important aspect. So there are tools such as Azure Artifacts, which is part of Azure DevOps, and then in case of multi-language general dependency managers, there is a tool called JFrog Artifactory. It can help you manage and store packages and libraries needed for your projects. It is a universal repository manager for Maven, npm, NuGet, Python, Docker, and more. Now let's see the system and application monitoring tools, right? So monitoring your systems and applications is key to keeping your system running smoothly. It helps you track system performance, detect issues, and ensure that your applications are running efficiently. So the some of the most popular tools are let's say for the open source monitoring tools, there are like four tools: Prometheus, Grafana, Nagios, and Zabbix. These tools are optional, but if you know, then it's well and good. Prometheus is a time series monitoring tool. It's alerting. Then it's great with Kubernetes. Grafana is a visualization and dashboarding tool, often used with Prometheus. Then Nagios is long established system monitoring. Zabbix is open source monitoring for network, servers, cloud, and VMs. Right? These tools are optional, but if you know, then it's well and good. Then there is commercial and enterprise monitoring tools. This is also optional because these tools are not natively to the cloud providers. So if you know, then it's an advantage. Let's say the Datadog. It is a SaaS monitoring tool for infrastructure, applications, logs, APM. Then there is Dynatrace, AI-driven full-stack monitoring and observability tool. These are big monitoring tools in the market. So most organizations widely used it, but if you know only the cloud monitoring tools, then it's enough. So cloud monitoring tools such as AWS CloudWatch, Azure Monitor, Google Cloud Operations, formerly Stackdriver, right? So AWS CloudWatch is a native AWS monitoring and logging tool. Then for Azure, Azure Monitor and Application Insights, both is a native monitoring for Azure services and applications. Then for Google, we have Google Cloud Operations monitoring tool. It is for both monitoring and logging for GCP. All right, that's wraps up the today's video on the essential DevOps tools you must know. We were covered everything from version control and infrastructure as code to CI/CD containers and security and more. Remember, you don't need to master all of this at once, but by gradually building your knowledge across these tools, you'll become more versatile, confident, and in demand DevOps engineer, right? So, yeah, that's it. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.